Eddie the I was just singing Eddie the producer. I was waiting for him to hit the live button. Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday. If you don't know, this is live from Louisiana right at the moment. I live in a small area called Ascension Parish, which is up above New Orleans. And right now we are fine. We have had some wind. We have not had our power taken out. We are doing just fine. We won't see the brunt of this hurricane until about another couple hours. So, and it's going right over top of us. But I wouldn't miss a week. There's no way I would miss a week. And this week we're going to be talking about there's this article that came out. And it's like the silliest article in the whole entire world, but it's basically saying how certain areas they consider to be overvalued right now, as they think it's overvalued and it's most likely to drop drastically if we ever hit the pop in the bubble, like they say. So I have a good friend of mine, and you guys know him very well because you guys always enjoy having him on, and that's Matt Kelderman. Yes, he's from the DFW area. Are you going to throw him up in there, Eddie? Are you going to add him to the stream? Let's see if he wait, Eddie, I'm going to go ahead and add him to the stream.
Boom, and then, myself too. We will get me on this show.
Yeah, and then Eddie's going to go outside, and he's going to show us what it actually looks like outside in the Louisiana weather here. Let's see here. I think he's turning around. Here we go. All right, see?
Hello, everyone.
There he is.
Hello, can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So we're sitting at 30 miles an hour northeast, winds coming in. Just steady rain, that's it. Not too bad right now. I think we're supposed to be seeing this get progressively worse, but I think we'll be okay.
Thank you, Eddie.
No problem.
All right, throw up the article.
Yeah, Eddie, out in the hurricane and running production in the background. This is amazing.
Yeah, well, he wanted to show everybody that there was nothing to worry about, because I've literally got probably about 20 or 30 emails today saying, is there still going to be a stream? Because I see that you're having a hurricane come through. And I'm like, yes, we're still going to be talking about real estate. I would die if we couldn't. I love these Sunday streams. It's like one of my highlights of my week is doing this stream with everybody and to be able to answer their real estate questions. Oh, all right. So these are the most overvalued housing markets in the United States. And we're going to scroll down to the list, which really made me laugh. Matt got to see this earlier.
The list was the funniest part of it. I was telling you, I was like, I really expected just to see something super profound on here. And then they get to this list and I'm like, what the hell?
my daughter always goes, what the hell? That's how she says it. What the hell? Okay. So Boise, Idaho, which to me, like, the only thing I can think of is the reason why it became overvalued is because people had a FOMO thing. But number 2 was the one that I really want to talk about. Austin, Texas. To me, I'm like, overvalued 50%. Do you agree with that assessment of this article?
No, and I like, the word overvalued too is also like, what are we gauging that off of? But if you're saying like there's a potential for it to the Austin market to fall back 50.72%, like that's absurd, and that's not what's going to happen. Austin, definitely, the stories coming out from like my Austin friends and the agents I know down there, definitely that market has seen some pretty crazy numbers, and some of the more bananas stories of buyers kind of going off the rails and builders doing. We talked about like 2 months ago, those builders down in Austin who are yanking back contracts just because the houses were worth more. I've heard a lot of that coming out of Austin, but I don't think that market's overvalued at all.
Not by 50%.
Not by 50%. Yeah, not by 50%. Like, yeah, I'll back down off not at all, but not by 50%.
The other thing that Austin has going for it, and like people need to like wrap their brain about this. A lot of California companies shut down their business in California and moved to Texas, and they moved to Austin, Texas. There's a lot more tech industry there now than there was 2 years ago. And that area has exploded, not just because people were like, yeah, I want to move to Austin because I want to get out of California. It's because there's all these industries there. It's going to be like the Silicon Valley of the South, Austin, Texas. That's what I think. I could be totally wrong about that, but 50%. Well, I'll give it maybe 18% overvalued. I wouldn't say 50. 50%.
Well, I think what we see, and here's like Kat in the comments just popped in something that I think I agree with, is like, I think this is more a list of places that have seen insane growth because they were undervalued to begin with. right? Like I feel like what's happened in the Dallas market specifically is that we were probably an undervalued major metropolitan area to begin with. And now we're overvalued a little bit from where we should have been, but some of these were just prices catching up. And when we look at places like Detroit was the other confusing one on this list. Haven't we been telling everybody for years that like, go buy stuff in Detroit? Detroit's where you can get all these deals. Like, is Detroit really overvalued, or is it that people are finally pumping money into Detroit? And now we're seeing prices going up, right? Like, you know, that's what we're seeing more with a lot of these, I think, than anything.
Right. Well, like you said, Detroit, Michigan had homes that you could buy for 20, 30,000, and they were beautiful homes. I mean, they needed work, but you know, to buy a whole house, 3 stories, you know, like a full craftsman style house that needed some, you know, some lipstick on a pig for 30,000. I mean, oh, now it's worth 100,000. Oh, wow. You know, like to me, that's still, I don't know. And they come up these things. But the other one that I found very interesting was, I don't know much about Spokane, Washington, but Salt Lake City, Utah, that is not overvalued. I'm sorry. That's another area that has grown up exponentially because of the large amount of traffic that has left California. Same thing, kind of a migration of companies have gone to Salt Lake City from California. And there's a lot of people, that's just a growing area. So it's not overvalued. CC Moon says, come to Phoenix, Arizona. Let's be number 1.
You guys have to do something about the 9,000 degree heat before I spend any amount of time in Phoenix. Like Dallas is hot, but that is just different.
Yeah.
118, 115, like that's bananas.
Well, Phoenix, Arizona weather is very similar to an area that I was in Utah, which was St. George. And it was like when you walk outside, you're like, ugh, but you don't really sweat right away. You just feel the burning heat like on your skin immediately. It is so dry. It's like your eyes can't blink. I could not drink enough water, and I'm not a water drinker. So it was like, and I'm chugging water constantly the whole time I was there. I always felt like I had a headache the whole time, and there's no allergies there because there's nothing but desert, but whatever. 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 Another area is Provo, Utah. That is a vacation spot though. And I can't see how that, like a lot of times when people in this particular market, this last housing bubble, people were buying their second homes. That wasn't just their first home. They were buying second homes, and they were buying it in places like Salt Lake City, Utah, Provo, Utah, like all those like vacation spots, especially around Colorado and everywhere else. Yeah. So I think some of those values, they're saying they're overvalued, but those people aren't going to leave. They're buying a second house because they want a second house for a vacation.
Do you think that this list, especially when you look at it regionally, right? Like out of these 10 homes, 1, 2 of them are not in that northwest area, right? And that's Phoenix and Austin. I mean, is this indicative of the exodus we're seeing from California and people just literally moving to places where they can work, and they're taking that California mindset with how expensive houses are and things like that we hear about in those areas, and they're moving to regions that are close, that they can get a ton of value and maybe a little bit more land, still get the scenery, which is why you live in California, right? Because the region of all 10 of these seems kind of telling as well. They're all pretty close to each other.
That's
right?
True, except for like the Boise, Idaho. But I do know people from Washington that are leaving Washington that were moving to Boise, Idaho. I do know that. Yeah, I talked to all the people around the, from this channel from around the country. So I've noticed that a lot of people from Washington were moving to Boise, Idaho. So I think that's.
I bet you if they drug this list down, they did the top 10. What you would see that would probably, and I don't know what the numbers would be, but let's say 11 through 25. You're still going to see a ton of cities with plus 20%, right? Like there's going to be so many where we're talking about whatever this overvalue index is that they're using, right? I'm sure when they apply that to places like Houston and San Antonio and Dallas, Fort Worth and Nashville and those other areas where we typically see large amounts of people moving. I think I've told you before, I have a huge agent referral network. And so you see the migration of people, right? You see on these Facebook groups where people are saying like, hey, looking for a realtor in Nashville, looking for a realtor in Atlanta, looking for a realtor in Vegas, right? You see the same cities popping up all the time, right? And I do a lot of referrals of people from California people are moving to Texas, right? So I personally see it in my business, but I bet you there's a lot of cities like that have seen that plus 20 to 25% growth as well, right? Still huge numbers, but not as insane as some of these.
Yeah. I get a lot of people that want to move to Texas. That's my number. Like I send a lot of referrals to your area, the DFW area. That's the Dallas Fort Worth, Texas area. And then Austin, I guess, would be my second one. Years ago, I used to do a lot through going into Houston, but now I swear I rarely get one that's going to Houston. Rarely. They're just really strange.
Houston's definitely different. I mean, as far as not in a bad way different, I just think the businesses and the industry there is a little bit more specific than it is. I think it's a lot more energy based. It's still a huge city. I mean, it's the fourth largest city in the country behind New York, LA, Chicago. It's number 4.
Yeah, I used to live there. Not my favorite town. Not my favorite town.
I'll stay up here up north. You talk about humidity. No, thank you.
Yeah, well, I live in Louisiana.
Yeah.
And if anybody's new right now to the chat, yes, we have a hurricane that's coming through right now. We are totally fine. We're not going to be seeing our hurricane force winds until about 6 o'clock, so we're doing good. So if you have a question, go ahead and throw it up, and Eddie can put up the first question. Anything that's related to real estate, or you want to talk about the valuations in your area, please, go ahead and put your question in, and Matt and I will go ahead and toggle the answers back and forth here. Housenik says, question, if homes went up 50% in Texas in the last year due to overbidding, what will happen when the overbidding stops? Second, has the income risen 50% in that same time frame? Go ahead.
I'll reverse answer it. No, the income has not went up 50% in the last year and a half. Like, definitely not. I don't think it has anywhere, right? We're already starting to see a bit of days on market. So the leading indicator for me in real estate is the days on market. That's the first thing that we can typically see that starts telling us if the market is slowing down a little bit. And we're definitely seeing homes sitting a little bit longer. I'm not seeing 20 offers on every single house. It's still happening, definitely. Mm-hmm. It's not happening on every single house. You're not seeing stuff at the luxury price point getting hammered like it was, right? Like, we're definitely still seeing aggressive buyers, but it feels like that fatigue is setting a little bit. Now, is that back to school? Is it the normal end of summer slowdown? Mm-hmm. We'll see, right? Like, I don't know if that's what it feels like right now.
Right.
But, to answer your question, 50% is a little bit inflated. If we're saying Texas as a whole, I can speak to DFW. The median home price since COVID popped off is 24% around the country. And DFW is definitely way higher than that, right? So I'm not poo-pooing on 50%, but we're starting to see everything calm down. And what's happened, though, and I think it's important for the consumer to understand when we talk about the overbidding part, is if a house is on the market for $375 and it sold for $425, and the house didn't appraise, it appraised regardless, it didn't appraise, who cares? It's on the books at $425. That's now the new baseline comparable for that neighborhood, right? And then when 2 or 3 other people lift off that baseline comparable and they get $430 and $435, now all of a sudden the structure of that neighborhood is completely changed. And the comparables are the new $400,000 price. So the price doesn't drop back below that. Where buyers get really screwed in this market, and we talk about them losing money, is if they're at the back end of this crazy market and they buy high, where they were the last people to buy high, right? Mm-hmm. And then they call me in 18 months and say, Matt, I need to sell this house and I need to get all my money back and I need to make some money. That's where you're screwed, right? Because typically it's now your responsibility to pay fees and commissions and all of those types of things, which eat into your equity a little bit. And the market's calmed down. So you do get that natural little dip in your price as far as putting it right back on the market, right? So you definitely don't want to buy a house in this market just to turn around and try and sell it in 18 months unless you're a flipper and that's what you do.
Right. And I tell everybody, like, they're like, well, what if I buy this house and I go to sell it, and I'm like, well, if you don't plan on selling it in the next 5 to 7 years, I think you're going to be just fine. My original thought process when this all started was there's not going to be enough people to maintain the prices of or pay their mortgages because there were so many people out of work, and then they came in with all these forbearance plans. So I never knew that was going to happen. And I knew a couple of people that had taken forbearance. I had one closing that was supposed to happen, and he took the forbearance right before he was supposed to close, and then we couldn't close because he whatever. People lie. That's all there is to it. Absolutely. People lie, and he got caught. He got caught right before closing, and but I was thinking, oh my God, this is already starting. This is already starting. This is what we're going to see. But what I have noticed is that some people that I have spoken to, they have said that with the forbearance plan and their houses have increased so much, the the banks are willing to restructure their mortgages so they don't have to leave their house.
Yeah.
Like they're going ahead and almost like doing like a refinance where they only owed like 20 years, but they're going to go ahead and refinance it almost like a refinance for another 30 years. Now they did have to pay some penalties, but at least because their family had gone down to one income, the payment became less and it was something that they could afford and they got to keep their house. I think we're going to see a lot more of this. There's now 1.6 million people still on, was it million? Yeah, 1.6 million, maybe I don't know. I want to say million it's got to be 1.6 million people still on the forbearance plan. And that really isn't that bad. And they're expected a bunch of them to drop off at the end of September. So that's just something to keep in mind. I know a lot of people were like, because at one time it was like 14 million that were doing it, but
it was a scary amount.
It was a scary amount. It was way above what I could even imagine. I'm like, this is going to be so bad. But then a lot of people were forced into it too.
Well, I think a lot of people forced into it. I think there were some people who just took it for the sake of taking it. I will tell you, I still actively sell real estate every day and work with buyers and sellers. And I'm a part of a team that's going to do 300 transactions this year. And I have seen 2 forbearance issues, 2, right? And we're doing this at a high level every single day. So now I don't know where that can got kicked, and I don't know what's going to come from that potentially, right? It's like I'm reading this book, Fierce Conversations, and they talk about they give an example in there of like we can't possibly see the effects. They give an example from September 11th of Japan all of a sudden had a huge crab shortage because people stopped traveling after September 11th to the United States and they stayed at home a lot more and they were eating a lot more local foods, right? So the crab fisheries all of a sudden had a huge problem staying caught up. We don't know what the unexpected consequences are going to be of all the stuff that's happening right now. Right?
I say that all the time.
Like you were saying earlier, there's no crystal ball for any of this stuff. But at the end of the day, yeah, exactly. There's no crystal ball for any of this. But right now, it doesn't feel like that forbearance thing is going to be as insane as it appeared. At least that's what I'm seeing.
Right. But I know that he was talking about like it going up 50%. I still don't think that some areas even went up 50%. And not only that, the difference between this market, and I've said this many times, and all the housing crashes previously, the last one especially was held up by interest-only loans or stated income loans and a lot of predatory lending practices where they were giving people a lot more credit for what they actually earned. So people that were had a job, a couple that had $100,000 in income were getting, a house that was $400,000. They had no right to be in that house, but they would tell them, well, you can afford it because it's only interest only. So the interest only payment wasn't that high. Yeah. Well, then that time period lapsed. Some of them had balloon payments and they were like, oh, now you owe all of this money. And they're like, we can't do that. It was just all this crazy stuff. This market, this one right here, this one, I've never seen as much cash just being shoved.
That's a huge part of it. And I'll speak directly to you, Brian Owens on YouTube. Here's the thing about forbearance. We are speaking to forbearance people because we're not just traditional real estate agents either, right? We're calling people from water shutoff lists. We're calling people from foreclosure lists, right? We're having large amounts of conversations with people that would fall into the category of people who wouldn't want to list with a traditional real estate agent. So I completely agree with you. I don't think all real estate agents are tackling that. And even when we're calling through people who are showing signs that they might be having monetary problems, those people aren't necessarily in a space where they're going to lose their house, right? A lot of people have so much equity in their homes that they haven't gobbled all that up with what they owe the bank yet.
Yes. Right? Exactly. Yeah. Now if they've got over a year and they're in an area that didn't explode like Austin, Texas, or the DFW area, it could be very possible. But I don't think that the amount of homes of people is going to be as much as people think there is. I just don't think so. Okay. Cat Loom says, question, living in a rural Idaho, people are moving here and I think they're going to live in the country and they work from home. Good. Find out no internet access. Have you heard this? Now, anybody that I know that has gone to a rural area, especially here in Louisiana, the first thing they ask before they ever buy a piece of property is, what does the high-speed internet look like? They won't even look at it. They're like, what is the internet access? What is it like there? I need to know. And they literally put that out there. Yeah. I don't know about you.
I don't live in a rural area, but we definitely every once in a while I'll have a client who the tech requirement of his job working from home is pretty high, and they'll have specific requirements for those neighborhoods. But for the most part, being in Dallas, internet's not really an issue. We're pretty plugged into everything here.
You can also get satellite internet. So some of the big companies, like my brother works for a larger company, and he has a satellite internet. So he can literally put it in the middle of the beach, put that little satellite up there, and he's got really good internet. So Steve C says, question, I think though that those housing numbers are high to stop people from moving around. COVID maybe? Yeah. I mean, like, I think a lot of it, like some people were like, we always dreamed about this, we're working from home anyways. And I really don't want to be, like on top of the kids anymore. They're driving me crazy. Let's get a bigger house so the kids can leave us alone and we can have our own office space.
Hang on. She said she might cut out at some point. I don't know if that's on her or on me. Somebody in the comment section, if they can hear me talking, and it's just Kristina, or if I'm out too. I think what, in general, what she's talking about though, I hope this is working. Okay, cool. All right. She said that might happen. I'll jump back on. I was listening to her, so I don't know. Sorry, power went out. Oh, yeah. they said that this is where we get to, whoever wanted to see the generator in action, you're about to get to see it in action. Just her can hear you just fine. All right, perfect. All right, wonderful. We'll stay on her generators and kick back on here in just a second. If you guys want to fire off some questions, I'll scroll back up here real quick, see if I can find the last one since Eddie's kind of doing this. Here, I'll go with Zyphel on question. Do you think the influx of cash might be related to flat money-to-money increases and allowing rent forbearance? Like the influx of cash, and Kristina and I have talked about this on the show a ton of times, the influx of cash has been the biggest oddity in this entire market, for me at least. Normally, we don't see people willing to bring that level of cash off the sidelines. I've told some stories on here before where I've seen people bring $100,000 to the table on a short appraisal. And that's just, I will tell you, 2 years ago, that would have been absolutely unheard of. This market has been, even for real estate agents who are seasoned, I've been doing this for 9 years. This market has been creating kind of buyer behaviors that I haven't seen before ever. So I'm hoping that what we're starting to see with a little bit of buyer fatigue setting in and some of the prices balancing out, at least in the Dallas market, maybe some of those days on market will start to increase. That'll cause some sellers to go on the market. It'll start to bring a little bit more inventory on and then relieve some of this pressure. But right now, we are just missing a ton of homes on the market. So it's incredibly hard to get anything going. I did not hear a question. Did you hear that California passed a bill regarding guaranteed income? Do you think it's a trend to come in other states? How would extension of guaranteed income affect the housing market? I didn't hear about that. I can't imagine. I think that's going to fall along party lines a little bit. And that's something I'm not going to get into on YouTube with a whole bunch of people. But the reality is I don't foresee that being something that I think maybe other states might adopt that, but I don't think that's going to be a solution to any of the problems we have coming in, right? That's a conversation maybe potentially around, the lowering minimum wage and those types of things. And I'm not an economist, so I definitely don't want to sit here and act like I know how that would affect a lot of stuff. It seems to me like anytime there's free money entering the market, it devalues the current money that's out there, and that makes me a little bit nervous. When rates finally do go up, will that slower reverse the market? I don't think it's like in the reverse part of the market. I just don't see, right? The prices are here to stay in a lot of these markets that we've seen exploding, right? I don't really know if you can all of a sudden, for instance, in Dallas, if somebody paid $420,000 for a house, if you're expecting that house to be worth $325 next year, I don't believe that's what's going to happen, right? I think those people, like I said earlier, will be left holding the bag if they bought towards the end, but they're not going to be in a position where, they get stuck losing $100,000. Like I said, just don't turn around and try and sell your house in 18 months and you're going to be in a pretty good position. Do you think that builders not moving fast so they can make more profits? Here's the thing with builders. Builders as a whole right now, they might be making out like a bandit in all of this the most. Some builders have completely eliminated compensation for agents or anything else, which again, that's a me problem. That's not a consumer problem. I do think anytime you're the consumer and you're working directly with the builder, working off of a builder's contract with the builder's title company and using the builder lender, you don't really have. Kristina fired off in the comments that everything's good. They just lost power. So should be hopping back on here. We'll see. I do think that you do need to have somebody representing you, right? You at least need to have somebody keeping an eye on your side of the fence. If everybody on that side's working for the builder, and if the builder's not going to pay a buyer's agent, then honestly, there's some negotiation power for you on that side. What's the incentive to you to be completely unrepresented in the process, right? So I definitely don't think builders prices are coming back down by any means at all. The guaranteed income in California is for faster kid transition out of foster care and for single. Okay, so that seems like it's very specific. Hey, she's gonna be back on in a second.
I'm so sorry.
I was just reading questions and firing off my thoughts on them. It's good you're back, because I was riffing and I was just gonna probably start saying stuff I shouldn't say.
Oh, you can say whatever you want. Eddie was going to give you a little update because we do have like rolling power. So if the stream does end and you want to end it, just go ahead and just close it down. I know that I just wanted to, I wanted today to be as normal as possible because I know that tomorrow's going to be really hectic. So Eddie's going to show us the outside. Eddie, you're on mute. You're muted. We can't hear you. I can read your lips though.
Hey, thanks for having me back, guys. And Matt, great job. I just want to let you guys know it has gotten a little worse. The wind has picked up and the rain has picked up. I know one of our viewers has a parent that lives out by Dutchtown High. We're not far from there ourselves. It's not so bad, but as you can see, the wind is picking up. It is picking up in rain, and obviously with power flickering in and out. I'll give you guys an update a little bit later.
Yeah, I said we would give a little update since people wanted to see what was going on here in Ascension Parish. I know. He was so good to do it. So, so what was the last question? I'm going to...
So let's see. Let's start off. El Consta, sorry.
This one?
Right there. Yeah, boom. That one. That's probably a good one. There's a couple more into that are really good too.
El Costantino. El Costantino. There we go. Boom. Question: where are the sellers moving to if there's a shortage of homes? The top cities that people have moved into since COVID was Denver, Colorado, Wyoming, all over Wyoming, Montana, Austin, Texas. We had a little boom for a short period of time in New Orleans, but that was quickly squished pretty quickly right at the beginning of COVID, but then it squished out, but it maintained its value. Where else? Oh, Orlando, Florida was another big one. At the beginning of it was terrible, was Boston, Massachusetts. The housing market went fizzled out immediately at the beginning of the pandemic. But then it went bonkers afterwards. When people started coming back, it went bonkers. You look at my lights, you can see we're not getting.
They're trying so hard.
Yeah.
Because I obviously, those are national numbers too. Here locally in DFW, we still have so much room outside of town, right? And so we can expand north and east, and then, the Fort Worth side's going north and west and south and whatever. So new construction really jammed us up, the lumber shortage and all of that, because what was happening is they were just building like crazy here locally. So we saw
I have a ghost. Ghost. Yeah, but you know what? The builders though, they haven't been building, and this is statistically true. Home builders built to the point of ridiculousness right before the last housing crash. They were building on top of building on top. They're just spec home after spec home after spec home, and they lost their shirts when the housing market tanked. But then they were like, we're never doing that again. We're only going to build as many houses that we're going to sell, maybe a couple more on top of it. So we've had a housing shortage because the builders are doing a lack of housing because they don't want to lose. I don't blame them. They don't want to lose their shirts.
Yeah, it's smart. I mean, it's smart business. Like I said, it's just they weren't prepared with inventory for this by any means.
Right. And they had the same thought process as I did with the beginning of the pandemic. They were like, forget this. Who the heck's going to want to buy a house now? And they didn't build at all. Like they were just finishing up their projects. Then when it looked like there was a lot of interest, there was such a shortage of supply of building materials. Then they were really bad. And then they kept losing crews. I don't know how they were around here in your area, but in our area, they kept getting COVID. So they would have a crew, they would all get sick, and then you would be delayed 2 weeks because you're waiting for them.
That's exactly what is getting trades and vendors and anybody to do anything would have been.
Should Eddie Smallhorn be tethered with a line back of the house so he can won't get lost in the storm? Our winds won't hit like we're gonna get hit. We're gonna get hit pretty bad. We don't have, but they won't get hit until about 6 o'clock. Cat Loom says, question, bottom line, buy now or wait 6 to 12 months. Well, just know that you're probably hitting at the height, but you're not. Like, here's the thing, and I'm sure Matt, you can throw your 2 cents in. The idea that the housing market is going to sink like a rock, like it did in the last housing crash, is a fairy tale, in my opinion, because we do not have it being held up by ridiculously stupid loan packages. These people not only are buying the houses for over the amount that they were, the offer was, buying them cash over that amount, they're putting down huge down payments. I'm telling you, I have never seen as much cash as I've seen in the past year and a half. People are just like, yeah, I'm putting down 20-30%. I'm like, okay. And then I'm like, you're going to have to bid over. I'm prepared to bid about $35,000 to $45,000 to $100,000 over the asking price to win the bid. That's insanity to me. And that means it's a healthy, strong market for the people that are actually purchasing these houses. I don't know when we'll see the true ramifications of everything that's happened with the government stepping in with the forbearance plans, the government stepping in with moratoriums. By the way, I don't know if you know this, the Supreme Court said that the CDC cannot tell any state that they have to have a moratorium for rents. But everybody I know that is a mom and pop small business type of landlord has already found a way to get around people that are deadbeat renters. Yes. I mean, I know that some states has made it a lot more difficult, like California and Washington state have made it a lot more difficult to get rid of these kinds of renters. But here in Louisiana, we have not had the issue. I know a lot of people in Florida, they have not had that issue. They do not have deadbeat renters hanging out. I mean, I don't know of anybody. Do you?
We're going to sound like such real estate homers on here, and we always take flack for it in the comment section. Like, you guys are realtors. Of course you say it's going to be fine. The cash part of this is the only part you need to understand. Like, this is not people being over leveraged with no equity in their house. Like, that's just not the case. So for everybody to start losing their houses, the bank have to take back assets they don't want and start selling them at a loss. That's just not what's going to happen next, right? You know,
right. Yeah. And then they, like a lot of people in the comment section too, well, you're going to see that because you're real estate agent. Honest to God, and Matt, I'm sure will agree with me. We hate this real estate market.
I don't like it at all. I don't want it to be like this.
This is awful. It's awful. It's awful. Because I like my buyers to get a deal. I like the buyers to get a deal.
It is so hard to be able to go to a buyer and explain to them, even sellers. Look, here's the thing is sellers don't get away with having to have difficult conversations either. I've got 3 listings right now that all 3 of the sellers are unrealistic on pricing. And they are just refusing to do price adjustments. And that's fine. That's my job to help them understand that and move through it, right? But at the end of the day, those are houses that they were basing their thought processes off what they saw happening 90 days ago.
Right.
And now they're sitting on that. So you're dealing with that part of the equation. We have this like river meets the ocean type of situation happening right now where buyers and sellers are not having the same experiences. And the faster we can move through that, then I would like that, right?
I like a little market. My like, honest to God, I like it when, you know, a seller has a house. This is what they want for it. The buyer comes in, they say, yeah, you know what, you have that much, but your comps say this, and I want a little bit of a deal. Can you give me some closing costs? There's a little negotiation back and forth, and everybody's at a win-win situation. That is the ideal housing market. And there's enough houses for me to show buyers. Like, there's buyers that have compromised, and like like, you can ask my buyer right now. I talked her out of a few houses. I'm gonna like, look, this house sits on the highway. One day you're gonna try to sell this house. I just want you to put that in perspective. This house costs this amount of money, and you're sitting on the highway with a lot of noise.
Yep.
You're gonna have a hard time selling this one day, and you're gonna want to sell it. And she's like, you know what? You're right. Like, she's like, I'm actually a pretty crappy real estate agent because I want people to buy an investment.
No, you're not. This is the thing is, this is why sometimes, again, in the comment section and those types of things, or even in general, real estate agents get lumped in with like the worst professions we always think of. And look, it's not unfounded. There are plenty of dip-ass agents out there. There are plenty of tons of them. There are plenty of agents who their advice comes based on the amount of zeros that are in their bank account, right? I understand the consumers' fear of real estate agents, and that doesn't mean that everything's happening with the real estate market is a giant con either. Right? Mm-hmm. Like, it is still one of the first things you need to do towards building long-term wealth. It is just a fact that the average, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, the average homeowner's worth on paper, or however they define it, is exponentially larger than the average renters, right? It just is. Mm-hmm. So, and I'm not saying that doesn't mean that there aren't places where renting makes more sense, or time of your life where it makes more sense. I would very much say that renting your entire life does not make sense.
Rents have gone up so high, though. Yes. They're just so high now. It's crazy.
And they're nuts here too. I mean, they're nuts here. Like I said, I mean, I put something on in McKinney, which is a suburb that has nice schools and is really quiet. And I had people bidding up the rent. It's just,
we just talked about that last week, is how, that people were, like, that's what they were doing. They were, price warring the rental. Like,
I mean, I went to my owner and was like, hey, look, this is just kind of like one of those things. We need to get the best tenant in here. Right. Mm-hmm. So anyways, it's crazy out there.
All right. Do we have any more questions, Eduardo? Here we go. Question. Do you think that the market will soon be a buyer's market? Define soon. I think we're going to level out. That's what I think. Yeah. I think we're going to see a leveling out and within the next 6 months, or, like, it just.
Oh, did we lose her again? So I'll jump off what she was saying, because I had a thought already with that too, but I don't think, am I out or is she out? There we go. I don't think it's going to be a buyer's market soon, only because I did see that CC move. We're going to scroll back up and grab that real quick. I don't think it's going to be a buyer's market soon, at least here in DFW. I think nationwide, we're going to see a lot of areas that do have some opportunity for buyers. There's no doubt. But here at DFW, I don't, like I said, we're never really a buyer's market. If we're defining a buyer's market as 6 months worth of inventory, right? Saying like, if it's 6 months of inventory, we're in a neutral market. Anything above 6 months of inventory is going to be a buyer's market. Anything below is going to be a seller's market. I just don't see us getting to that inventory influx where it's a full-on buyer's market by definition. But compared to what we're seeing right now, hell yes, I think we're gonna be in a buyer's market sooner than later. Hang on, I'm scrolling back up to find some of these questions here real quick. Somebody asked about open houses. How effective are open houses for selling? How many people view? Look, there's a lot of serious buyers that come through your open houses. They may not be buying your house though. I think open houses are amazing for the real estate agent who's holding the house open. I don't know if open houses are really super amazing for getting your particular house sold. The percentage of homes that sell directly from the open house that they came into is relatively low. Let's see here. Cece, drop your, whoever that was that did the super chat, drop that question back down and I'll get it again. How effective are open houses for selling? What percentage are you hit that one? If the corporations stop buying houses, will the price drop? I don't think the prices are going to drop if corporations start buying houses, but they definitely are buying houses. There's no doubt that corporations are buying up blocks in certain cities, and they're buying those houses as buy and holds to give to their employees and are ultimately going to sell them. And it does make it really, really difficult for average consumers in those areas to get going. Matt, where are all the mansions for most of the ladies on Housewives of Dallas? Most of them are in Highland Park. I think they live in Highland Park. There's a lot of really cool areas of Dallas. South Lake's really awesome. Huge lots. Lot size inside Dallas proper is a premium. So there's 5 or 6 original Highland Park lots that are really, really beautiful that never really sell. And then Preston Hollow, I bet you that's where most of them live. I don't watch all that stuff. Do you have, let's see, if somebody's getting these, go ahead and fire them off still, but do you see the middle class ending in the United States? Man, I just think it's a lot harder for people, middle class, lower class, upper class. I definitely think it is a lot harder when you have what is a regular wage job to purchase a house in some of the major metropolitan areas, right? Like, I don't know what that income has to be, but it's definitely getting harder and harder in my market to find something under 250, right? There's no doubt about that. I see you, Kristina. I'll keep rolling if you guys are jumping back on. I don't care. Do you think that certain markets, let's see, amoeba microbiology, that's funny. Do you think that certain markets will lose home values, even if as a whole, the housing market will remain at their current prices? Definitely. Yeah, definitely. There's definitely going to be certain markets that didn't even see the huge influx. And there's going to be markets that I think feel the sting when some of these buyers are left holding the bag and maybe they want to move. But again, if the plan is to own your house for more than 5 years, then I'm just gonna keep going, man. If the plan is to own the house for more than 5 years, then I really think that's, you're going to be in a good spot. So if you're restarting the computer, come back home. Question, do you have to sign up and pay to view a list of foreclosed homes? I've tried to look online, but I'm always expecting to pay something. Yeah, we have what's called a Roddy report here locally. I don't know if that's the nationwide database or whatever. I don't do a ton of foreclosures. My business partner does. But there is a report that you can get that I think has as real estate agents, I don't know how you get access to it, but I know title companies have access to it. So you can see that Roddy report and see what the foreclosure is going to be. And then I assume go to the courthouse steps and make a bid on them. That's a part of my business I've never really tackled. I didn't have the clientele to do that early on. And as I've grown, it's just not been a source that I look at. Let me see, find some more questions. I appreciate you guys hanging out. Eddie's on.
Hold on.
It's you.
Yeah, it's me. I'm in the kitchen now. Not the best lighting in the whole entire world. But I tethered it to my phone, so I don't know how good the quality is going to be. So if the power goes out again, we have our generator running. We have a whole house generator, but it doesn't run the internet. So yeah. So anyways, I know, like, this is kind of crazy. If anybody doesn't know, I live in Louisiana and our power keeps going out because we have a hurricane coming through. And we get these gusts of wind about 45, 55 miles an hour. And then when it does that, the power will go out. Do we have any good questions that we can throw up really quick?
Great. I was firing off some. Let's see. Let me go back up and just figure out where I left off. Question. Do you think the government once again found another way with real estate to ensure future generations will be worse off than previous ones? Okay. Here's the thing is, I don't feel worse off than my parents, right? So I don't feel like the government screwed me from, like, here's the thing is, from a financial standpoint, I'll out this right now. I grew up incredibly poor, right? Incredibly poor. And I personally am better off. Right now, am I saying that as a whole? No, I'm not. Like, I get it, whatever. Like, I'm not getting a huge debate, but I don't think, for me personally, I'm not worse off than my parents were. If anything, I'm better off, right? So I definitely think that the opportunity for home ownership, there isn't not as much opportunities there as there was at all. The opportunity to pay your way out of debt is not as easy as it used to be because it exists now, right? But I don't think I'm worse off in life than my parents were, but definitely home ownership's a lot freaking harder now. I have no doubt about that.
I will disagree. I'm going to push back a little bit because the opportunities my parents were afforded are not the same opportunities that I got. My dad, he was able to get a full pension from his company. They don't exist anymore. He was Social Security that we've been paying into probably won't be in existence by the time that we retire, or be very limited. I don't think that we get the same kind of healthcare insurance like we used to get from companies. We don't get any of that. Now they give us these 401ks that aren't nearly the same as a pension. The cost of living is a lot more than it was when my parents were raising us as kids. I mean, everything costs way more than my dad. My mom and dad all the time say, how do you even do it? I'm like, I don't even know. I don't even know. But they had to make a lot more money.
But is that just because as a society, and here, look, this may speak to one CH's question, we're also a society of borrowers now, and our parents weren't, right? Like our parents didn't borrow, they didn't have 4 credit cards and, you know, all this other stuff. We just fundamentally as a society have changed to where we borrow money, right? Like we just,
Right.
the borrowing of money is where almost everybody starts getting into debt, right? Mine was a Hastings credit card was where it all started for me, right? Like our parents didn't have options to those things. Now, is that our credit card's a huge conspiracy to screw all of us? I don't know, but right?
Well, because do you remember how they did the predatory credit card lending to kids in college? So they purposely would be in debt. Not only that, when my dad went to college, it did not cost him $34,000 a semester, a year to buy a college education. What it cost us to buy a college education is like astronomical. And they were told that in order for you to be successful in this world, you have to have an education. So these kids are starting off with a boatload of debt that our parents never had. The healthcare costs are way more than my parents ever spent for healthcare. So no, I don't think we have the same opportunities.
Again, I think there's direct relations to that. Healthcare is the way it is too, because we're fatter as a nation than we've ever been, right? Healthcare.
No,
I don't buy that. Look, and I'm not saying that attributes for all of it. And the healthcare companies and big pharma does screw people. And as a society, we're doing nothing to combat that. Right? Like we're doing nothing to combat that. We continue to get upset about certain things, but then not care how much high fructose corn syrup is in the stuff that we buy at the store. Right? Like
insurance companies are making bank off of us. They are making trillions of dollars off of healthcare. That is a hose. Then there's nothing to tell them that they can't. And that's where the problem is. I'm sorry. But I'm
just saying comparing the discipline of our parents' generation to the discipline of our generation. That's where I kind of draw the line. Yes, big business screws everybody. And as a society, we've gotten more okay with it than we've ever been.
Right. Well, we're giving out too much money in lending. We don't need to be lending as much. All right, we got off the rails. Sorry, I get passionate because
River hung out for that. Thanks.
All right, question: any referrals for direct corporate buyers? Is there any referrals for direct corporate buyers asking for a friend? Any referrals for direct corporate? Oh, are you looking for big businesses?
Yeah, I think that's.
I don't do anything with that.
Yeah, I don't do any corporate buyers at all.
My bag of tea. No, indeed. Now, I have worked with some investors that buy manufactured home parks, but the first thing I ask them is, what do you plan on doing with it? And if they say anything shady, I'm like, I'm not the real estate agent for you. I'm not joking. I'm totally not kidding. If they say, well, I plan on bumping up the rent and cleaning up the place, and that way it can get the riffraff out, and that way I can make some money and turn these all into rental units instead of people actually living in their homes. I'm like, I'm not the agent for you. That's not me. They're like, okay.
I was talking a little bit of foreclosures when you were off and they were asking about foreclosure list. I was like, that is just not something I've ever had any success with.
I have a website if anybody's interested in looking at foreclosures, because you will start seeing some because the banks need to get them off their books because they've been holding off for over a year. So you can go the link is in the description, is foreclosure.com, and they have all the foreclosures that aren't even on like the MLS or realtor.com or even Zillow. They're like private equity foreclosures. So you can join that website, and then you can get an exclusive list of foreclosures if you're interested in buying a foreclosure. Now, one thing I do want to note, if you are in the market to buy a foreclosure and you're just buying it for yourself because you want a deal, HUD Home Store, I've mentioned this many times, HUD Home Store will allow you as a person to buy a foreclosed property, and you get first dibs ahead of any investor. Investors can't even bid on a HUD home until 14 days out. So you can, and they will work with you way before they'll ever work with any investor. Their goal is to get people into homes that typically wouldn't be able to purchase a home. So just FYI. Is it dangerous after a hurricane? Are you armed, Kristina? In our area, honest to God, this is like a big block party. If we have no electricity and everybody's out of power, what we do is we start grilling up everything in our air. Like everybody has to grill up their their food, because you can't if anything's in the freezer, you can't keep it after so many days, especially if it's been defrosted. So everybody starts pulling out their grills and they're feeding everybody in the neighborhood. Here, get rid of their food. So no, we're good here. We're good. All right, let's see. All right. Oh, Kristina, I agree with you. I've scrimped and saved, don't buy junk. And guess what? I was told I saved too much money and to qualify for a USDA loan. What? Yeah. Now that they do have for rural development, that's the USDA loans. They do have specifications you have to fall under in order to qualify for those. Can you hear the wind?
I can hear that. That sounds crazy.
Yeah. That's wild, isn't it?
Man. No, thanks, Ola.
It's the same link, babe. It is, I promise. I can't.
I don't do it. Again, I live in a more populous area, so we don't do it. There's USDA loans definitely available. I just don't work in those areas. I mean, it seems a little crazy that you could save too much money for a USDA loan.
Right. You can't have so much in an account. That it is true. There is income requirements, and that's just happens to be one of them.
Yeah.
This question: do you get VA loans for manufactured homes? All right. So it has been that way for years. Now I've been told in the last year and a half that it's been more difficult to get a VA loan for a manufactured home. They have to be almost brand new. So anything like I think, and I don't mark this in cement, but I believe that it has to be over like a 1998 and above in order to qualify for a VA loan. You can't have anything younger than that. I mean, yeah, like, anything older than that.
Yeah.
Older than that. So yeah, so if you can't get it.
I was going to say, while you guys are off at 1.2, I think we missed one of the super chat ones, but I don't know how to go back and find those. I don't know if you can see that on your end.
Yeah, let me take a look. Let's see if I can find the super chats, because this kept going in and out of.
Yeah, I figured you did. Brian, I'm not super crazy on YouTube. I'm Matt Kelderman, Realtor. I'm on that way if you want to go check me out there. Or you can find me on Facebook too. I do a lot.
Let's see if Eddie can come in. I don't know if I think he's having a hard time getting. He wants to show. Oh, here we go. So he's under our. Here we go. We can't hear you. We can't hear you.
Oh, no. Can you hear me?
Good. Yes. All right. This is.
All right. So, rain has picked up a little bit. Wind is, you've got some heavy gusts coming in. As you can probably hear, I don't know if you guys can hear it, but there is a generator running. Obviously, that's why Kristina can go. But other than that, still waiting on the worst to come. But as you can see, the sky's blacking up but open. But here we are.
More spinny. Thanks, Eddie.
Crazy.
Eddie wanted to give the hurricane update. He's so funny. All right. Here we go. I moved this.
We read that one.
All right. Oh, okay. All right. Here we go. A question. Amoeba microbiological. Thank you. I was going to get it. It says, what about new builds? Any idea when that will stabilize in areas where housing market didn't go crazy? The problem is it's not necessarily the builder's fault. It's the lack of building materials. That's been stretched. It's very difficult. And, we keep having shutdowns, not just in our country. It's in other countries that we're getting our supplies from.
Most of the lumber comes from Canada, right?
Most of the lumber comes from Canada. Most of the drywall comes from Germany. They've had their fair share of shutdowns. And then, of course, we get a lot of stuff from China, like the roofing nails and a lot of the asphalt shingles and those kinds of things. So, I mean, it isn't just that they don't want to. It's that we can't get the building materials to make it. So that's the reason why there's been a decrease, even though there was a decrease beforehand. Yeah. So War and Peace, one of my favorite names, screen names.
That is really good.
Super clever. It says, we hope to be in the position to buy in about 6 months in Eastern Tennessee. Do you think things will be better or worse for loans in the market? What's your opinion, Matt?
I mean, I think there's a good chance that interest rates would go up a little bit, but again, we're not talking about anything that would be so high you shouldn't buy a house, right? I don't know the Eastern Tennessee market. I can only imagine that inventory should, without some big relapse in pandemic stuff where massive things have to be shut down again or whatever. At the end of the day, I think that there's probably 6 months from now that puts you. 6 months from now puts you in March. You might be heading back into spring again, right? Like, I mean, I definitely would focus on end of December, January, February, if you can make that timeline work, as opposed to March, April, May, because that's just a traditional spring market. But yeah, 6 months from now, I would assume there's going to be a little bit more inventory and a little bit more information on what's going on, right? We'll just be further down the road. I mean, what do you think? You lose that 6 months of equity too if the prices keep going up, which sucks. Right.
I don't think the interest rates are going to be able to hold forever. The low interest rates are not going to be able to hold yet forever. But here's the thing: you're always doing a trade-off. So if you're going to end up paying more in interest, then the prices come down in homes. I cannot see in the next year and a half home prices tanking. It's like, I don't even know how that's even possible unless we have a humongous job shortage, and we don't have a job shortage. They want more workers. So that's. It's kind of like, if you're hoping for that, I just can't see that possibly happening. I already answered that one. Oh, this was the one I wanted to say. He says, my channel 1208 says, my son is a military vet. Thank you for your service. And wants to buy a home in Southeast Texas, but the prices are insane. Any advice on getting a foreclosure or another deal? So I just covered that with the, go to HUDHomestore.com. They'll work with military, that even takes precedence of a single family dwelling. They also, you won't have to fight against investors upbidding you for the home. I would check with there. And then again, in my description, there is a link to foreclosure.com, and you want to check with some foreclosures there. There are always some good deals. There really is. You just gotta, it's one of those things you constantly have to be checking, refreshing.
It's just a time intensive process, right? And understand with those deals, they're going to take longer to close. There's going to be other hiccups. There's going to be, those don't typically just walk from one end of the deal to the other, but if you've got some patience and some time, those are great opportunities for people.
Yep. Houseneck says, Houseneck says, question, will some landlords sell in January to lock in gains and have till April 2023 to pay the capital gains? Of course, there's a lot of people that sold. A lot of people sold with renters already in their properties. They were like, I don't want to play this game anymore. I'm getting close to retirement. They'll sold a whole lot of investment properties. And there are plenty of investors that are willing to scoop up. There's many, I don't know about you, but I've got lots of people that are looking for more investment properties to put in their money because they're trying to offset inflation. So It's best for them to offset inflation in real estate. That's why all these big corporations like BlackRock and Blackstone do it.
I completely agree. I just think that we touched on that a little bit when you were out. So.
Oh, well, good. I'm glad we think
not a ton. I mean, not a ton, but yeah.
All right. I did a little wave. All right. Jerry says, question from Slidell, Louisiana. How's your weather there, Jerry? Because ours is getting kind of freaky. All right. Should I buy a rental with 20% down at 8% RI, or start a debt reduction from my 9-home portfolio while the rental market is super hot? It's hard to find cash flowing deals. Yes. It depends. That's
hard, man, because I don't know what your other 9 homes are doing, what your wealth building strategy is. I mean that rental, picking that rental up doesn't sound bad. Like that sounds right. But I mean, like, I just don't know what you're sitting on the other 9 for. I mean, like, I don't know if the debt reduction part for me, I don't know if I would probably focus on acquiring some other properties that you can get that kind of return on in a market like this. Because the debt reduction portion, your other properties should be appreciating too right now. Right. So the debt reduction portion of it seems like natural inflation is already going to do that for you from just an appreciation standpoint by reducing just the overall amount you're going, like, I guess the overall investment you have in the home. And if you can get that for 20%, for 8% ROI, is that good in Slidell, Louisiana? That'd be awesome here.
Yeah, but I'm going to tell you a little heads up. Kansas City, Missouri, a lot of my investors are buying rentals there. So just FYI, you want to check that out. I actually have a good connection in Kansas City, and I've had a couple investors invest about a few $1 million in investment properties out there. So just to let you know.
Azia, in the comment section, put yours in, because that may have been when we were going in and out of power, and I don't see your question anywhere. Who super chatted? I don't remember.
I see that one. Any reason my question didn't get answered? And they're like, I just keep losing power, so not all the questions have shown up on my screen.
Yeah, I think it's a connection issue. But if you want to pop it back in there,
yeah, just go ahead and throw it back up there. We don't have a problem with that.
Yeah,
we don't have a problem with that. It's definitely raining heavier.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're up on an hour. We just crossed an hour. So, I mean, if you want to do a couple more and
yeah. Oh, I definitely want to get Azia's question answered, because I don't want her to feel like I ignored her.
No, definitely.
I'm not
I do see this other question too, though, from Anthony Long. Do you think that the eviction moratorium is motivation for mom and pop landlords to sell? I mean, they're not necessarily. Here's the thing is, I mean, for me, that'd be a pretty calculated conspiracy, because I don't really know how you would force them to sell to somebody that would benefit whoever this entity is that's forcing them to sell, right? I definitely think there's a lot more people out there who just own 1 and 2 properties, and this moratorium has been murder for them, right?
Right.
But I think that the moratorium, people are looking less at the problems of the landlord than they are looking at the problems of the tenant. It's just societally, we look at the landlords being like, oh, you own 2 properties and another one, you must be rich, so you don't have any problems. So you can just pay your bills into perpetuity, right? Like is a little bit of a thought around the moratorium that there are going to be people, I think, left out in the rain. And if it's going to be somebody, it's going to be the landlords thinking that they can weather that storm more than the renters, right? And so I don't think it's a ploy to do anything, but it's definitely not great for the mom and pop landlords at all. This is rough for a lot of them, and those people are definitely selling, right? Some of them are.
Yep. Well, listen, I hate to close it down at 500, but my connection is getting terrible. You're starting to sound like a robot, and I'm not sure if we're going to be able to keep it going. But everybody that is in the Louisiana area, just like myself, I want you guys to stay safe and make sure that you have everything picked up around your house. I'm leaving it with this. If you have another question and I wasn't able to get to it today, please make sure that you email me at info@KristinaSmallhorn.com, and I'll have a personal conversation with you about your real estate questions. I have no issue with that. It just so happens that my internet is really wonky. We have the generators running to run the power in our house. So we're just going to have to give it up for the day. But at least we got a little bit of a live stream in during the hurricane. So that made it a lot more fun. So
we did.
Thank you, Matt. Everybody say thank you to Matt. And if you have any questions after the stream, make sure you put it in the comment section, and Matt and I will always be answering them. Let's see if I can give you a little outside appearance here. It's not so bad. Let's see. I'm going to try to do it. Oh, the window, the door flew open. Oh. You can hear the generators running.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Not so bad. Just heavy rain. Woo! All right. Bye, everybody. Have a great week. See you later. Thank you, Matt. We're going to do that. We're going to do the little dance. You know who did this? You do that.
Every time.
It's ending, hopefully. Let's see if it ends.